inside, you will see a pair of yellow lines on the floor. Rule number 1 is you must stay within the yellow lines at all times. If you step one toe outside the yellow line, security will come talk to you. So what's rule number 1? Stay within the yellow lines. Stay together and together as a group at all times. Parents, please keep your children close by, and children, please keep your parents close by, because parents tend to wander off. Now, your pink tour stickers are very important. They will not let you in the building unless they can see your pink tour stickers. Your lanyards are yellow and spiffy, but they do not get you in the building. So you must have your pink stickers visible. Photography is encouraged. Still cameras, flash photography, camcorders, have a great time. They do not allow camera bags or knapsacks, but they do allow purses. No food, drinks, gum, or any smoking materials. If you have cigarettes, cigarette lighters, or matches, please leave them on the bus with your other belongings. Randy will be staying with the bus to make sure your belongings are safe. Now, in the extremely unlikely event that an alarm goes off, are we going to stay inside here and watch it go kaboom? No, we're going to exit the building, get back on the bus, drive away to a safe distance, and then watch it go kaboom. There's nothing here to go kaboom, which is why they're allowing tours again after 33 years. But in the extremely unlikely event that an alarm goes off, we immediately exit the building, get back on the bus, and drive away. Okay, a couple last tips before we go in. The weather seems pretty calm today, but sometimes when we walk through the door it can be windy, so if you have a hat on, hold on to your hat. Also, when you walk in the door, your first instinct is to stop and look straight up, which I fully understand, but we have 51 people to get in. So when you walk in the door here, please immediately turn to your right, come down into the corner as far as you can. Your surprise is in the corner. So when you get down here to this corner, we'll all gather in the corner and then we'll start. So please remember, stay within the yellow lines, and we'll see you inside.
I'll take my camera. I'd like to know the answers about talking about parties on after. Dad, I bet you
thank
$20
you.
that it's not
Oh.
to have.
Sean, there's the capsule he's talking about.
I'll go down to the right as far as you can to get into the corner.
Get him, stand over there and get a picture of you?
Yeah.
Well, I promised a surprise for you, and this is your surprise right here. Remember we talked about the Space Launch System with the Orion Crew Capsule, and later in the decade will take us back to the moon or to an asteroid or to Mars. Well, this is an early prototype of the Orion Crew vehicles. This was used in 2010 at the NASA Center in White Sands, New Mexico for what we call the paddleboard test. I'm going to come around over here a little bit easier. Now, what we mean by paddleboard test, think about that picture on page 5 where you're looking at the Apollo Saturn V. You've got the rocket with the Apollo capsule on the top. If you're sitting inside that capsule on the launch pad and the rocket underneath you starts to blow up, you need to get away. So on top of the capsule, they had a very small rocket that would take that capsule off the rest of the rocket, go up in the air to a safe distance, then that little rocket would fall off, parachutes would come out, and the capsule would hopefully fall to a soft landing, either on land or out in the ocean. So we call that process a paddleboard. And we used this in 2010 to test the paddleboard system for the Orion capsule. So we have it in here for a few weeks. It's going to be on display, and then it's going to make its way up the East Coast, eventually to Washington, D.C., part of a driving tour to show folks the new Orion Crew Capsule. So that's what this was used for. There's a display back here that will tell you more about the paddleboard test and about Orion. Orion's official name is the Multi-Purpose Crew Vehicle. How many people prefer Orion? Pretty much everybody. So you may run into a NASA official who says Multi-Purpose Crew Vehicle or MPCV. They're just talking about Orion. Anyway, you're more than welcome to take pictures of this and of the display. We'll try to leave you a little bit of time when we leave to stop and take pictures as well. Well, welcome to the Vehicle Assembly Building. When this was completed in 1966, it was the largest building by volume in the world. No longer the largest by volume. That's now the Boeing Airplane Assembly Plant near Seattle, Washington. But this is still the largest single-story building in the world, because if you look straight up, 526 feet or 160 meters above you is the roof. It is a 52-story tall, single-story building. Originally designed in the early 1960s for the Apollo moon program. In the late 1970s, it was redesigned for the Space Shuttle. Later this decade, it will be used for the Space Launch System and any commercial companies that want to use this building. In fact, we talked about those $400 million in contracts the next 8 months. Some of that is going to be to upgrade this building, getting ready for the next generation of space flight. Let's talk about how we use this building. Now, if you remember those pictures on page 5, we saw that with both eras, it's a vehicle sitting on a gray mobile launch platform that is sitting on top of a crawler. So when it's time to assemble a new vehicle, the process begins outside with one of the crawlers picking up one of the 3 mobile launch platforms. That crawler will then come around on the outside of the building over to the east side. Why the east side? That's the side that faces out towards the launch pads. So it comes around on the outside to the east side, and then through one of the 2 big gray high bay doors into either high bay number 3, which is right here, or further down, which is high bay number 1. We have 2 more high bays on this side. Further down is number 2, and the closer one is number 4. But we always use this one for stacking because these 2 are facing out towards the launch pads. So the crawler comes through the high bay doors with that platform on top. Once it's in there, it puts the platform on pedestals. They go up 22 feet or about 7 meters, and it places that platform on pedestals. Once the platform is on the pedestals, then the crawler leaves. It doesn't need to be there anymore, and it's time to start building the rocket. So the individual pieces of the rocket will come into the building, either to the door here on the north or the door down to the south, 726 feet or 218 meters away. And it brings those individual pieces here into the middle. This is called the transfer aisle, because we use this aisle to transfer those individual pieces from here into one of the high bays. So once the pieces are here in the transfer aisle, we will use one or more of the cranes to pick up those pieces to go up in the air with a big opening called a diaphragm, and then down inside the high bay. The 2 most common cranes that we use for that, this yellow one right here with the American flag on it, has a capacity of 175 tons. It goes north and south. If you look up into the roof of high bay 3 here, there's another yellow crane. That holds a capacity of 325 tons, and that goes east and west. So we use the 175-ton crane to go north and south here in the transfer aisle, and the east-west 325-ton crane to take it into the high bays. So again, the individual pieces go over and into the high bays. They're stacked on that platform. Once it's ready to take the rocket out to the pad, the crawler again comes back on the outside through the gray doors, gets underneath that platform, picks up the platform with the rocket on top of it. Those big gray high bay doors open up as high as they need to go, and then the crawler heads down the road out to the launch pad with the platform and the vehicle on top. And we'll see that once we leave here. Now we have some displays down here that will help describe this to you, so please follow me.
Yeah, I bet you $20. You don't have money? That's the number.
Now these pictures show you the vehicle assembly building at 2 times in its history. These 3 pictures over here on the right in the 1960s with the Apollo moon program. This picture right here, this is not the Saturn V moon rocket. This is a smaller version called the Saturn 1B. When we launched the Saturn V, it was the biggest, most expensive, most dangerous rocket in history. We didn't want to launch it any more than we had to. So to test the parts of the Saturn V, to test the crew capsule, the lunar module, we used a Saturn 1B. It wasn't strong enough to go to the moon, but it was strong enough to go up to Earth orbit. That was good enough for testing and to save very cheaply. So this is the Saturn 1B. These are both parts of the Saturn V, but you can see with all 3, the process began right here in the transfer aisle, where we brought in the individual pieces, picked them up with one or more of the cranes to go up in the air through that big opening and down inside the high bay. These 3 pictures here on the left from the shuttle era. Here's the orange external tank being picked up in the transfer aisle. And remember I talked about those connecting points for the liquid oxygen and the liquid hydrogen? Well, you can see them right here. These red valves on either side, that's liquid oxygen on the right, liquid hydrogen on the left. This picture here, you can see the orbiter Atlantis being picked up. We attached a sling to either side of the orbiter. The 175-ton crane is on the back, the 325-ton crane is on the front. And we use that to pick up the orbiter in the air, to take it through that opening or diaphragm down inside the high bay. And if you look on the bottom where you see the red L's, those are the connecting points for those red valves on the orange external tank. So those 2 points connect right there. Please follow me down. Yes, sir.
Just so I understand, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 walkways running the whole length of the building. You're saying the crane picked it up above the 4th one, rolled it into that opening, and then dropped it down.
Correct. It goes up and over. And the reason for all these cross beams going across is when they designed this building in the early 1960s, they were afraid it would act like a giant box kite in a hurricane and blow away. So the first 32 stories up is just cross beams holding down the building in high winds, and that's why they have to go up and over.
So the whole shuttle or whatever would pick up that high and then moved into that hole.
Correct.
And then lowered down on those.
Up and over. And this east-west crane does high bay 3 and high bay 4. If we went down there, there's another one for high bays 2 and 1.
So this is getting it from...
This is for going north and south like this, and that one goes this way.
I mean, this gets it from horizontal to vertical?
Correct. Horizontal to vertical. All right, please follow me down to the next display.
There it is.
Just come down as far as you can so we get everybody into a small space. Now, these pictures show you what happens after we get through the diaphragm or the opening down inside the high bay. Here's that Saturn 1B, again sitting on a mobile launch platform down here. There's the first stage of the Saturn 1B. Second stage is being lowered down, and aren't these guys in for a surprise? Here's the Saturn V moon rocket, once again sitting on a mobile launcher. It's almost completed. Here's the Saturn V. Here's the Apollo capsule. Does that look like anything you've seen recently? Biggest difference is that holds 4 people, this held 3 people. So this has a little bit more volume inside for a 4th person. But the only thing they're waiting for here is that little paddleboard rocket we talked about. It's not quite on the top yet. But here's that red service tower we talked about on page 5. Again, you can see they used it to service the rocket right in here, and they took it out with them out to the launch pad because there was nothing there at the pad. That's how we're going to do it again in the future. Now, these 2 pictures over here, this picture is during the shuttle era. Once again, there's a mobile launch platform down here, white solid rocket boosters on either side. Here's the orange external tank, connecting points for the liquid oxygen and the liquid hydrogen. And you can see the orbiter still in the sling being lowered down to be mated with the orange external tank. This picture, yes sir?
They only put the components together here. Like, where do they actually manufacture?
Well, different parts were built all over the country during both the moon program and with the shuttle. So the contracts were they're usually through competition. So for example, the orbiters were built by Rockwell out in Downey, California, then the manufacturing facility was in Palmdale next to Edwards Air Force Base. Solid rocket boosters were built in Utah by a company called Morton Thiokol, today known as ATK. And the orange external tank was built at the NASA facility in New Orleans, Louisiana. Right, it's all assembled here. Now this is an artist concept of our new space launch system that will be taking our astronauts back to the moon or to an asteroid or to Mars. The Orion crew capsule is right here, so this is the equivalent of that. And here you can see that paddleboard system with the little rocket on the top with the engine. So if this starts to blow up, these little rockets would fire and yank that capsule off, and that's what that was used to test in 2010 in New Mexico. So technically the name of that is Orion Paddleboard 1 or PA1. But we already have this tower with the platform. It's sitting outside and we're going to go past it when we leave. So this is already available. It has to go through some further renovations as this design evolves, but this is built. And then this we hope to have ready for the first unmanned test flight in 2017. And now I have someone to introduce to you. Ladies and gentlemen, the Space Shuttle Orbiter Discovery. Now I have more to tell you, but I want you to have time for pictures, so I'll give you 5 minutes for pictures and then we'll resume.